Okay, today we're going to start 124b by Shalchum Mistam. That would be about 14 lines up, bottom. Thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. For learning, we should have some English immediately. For learning, Lili Nishmas, Zav Golda Basparach Ben Yamin, and Salas Ben Mitzian, and also for Shleim Avram David Ben Sarah. Valley gets a little yes, Ben Figitz Torah. Okay. We're learning about a firstborn that he only inherits his double portion from things that are in the possession of the deceased at the time that he passes away, not things that he receives later. He doesn't, although that gets inherited, but the firstborn doesn't get a double portion from that. What happens if he has a debt and the person pays it back? So we said before that was a machlekes between the Rabbanan and Rebbe. That's considered in his possession. It's not considered in his possession anyway. We had a statement from Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel that a firstborn does not get a double portion from the debt. So who does that go according to? If it goes according to the Rabbanan, so then what's the Chiddush? Must be going according to Rabbi. It says no, it's going according to the Rabbanan. And the Chiddush was that we don't say it's considered collected. Okay. No, even though there was a document, we don't say that it was considered collected already. Shalchum Misam, descent from Eretz Yisrael. Firstborn takes a double portion from a loan, from a debt. In other words, the person pays the father back after he passes away, and it goes into the estate. So when they're dividing up the income and the estate, he ends up getting a double portion from the milpeh as well, from the loan. But he doesn't get from the interest that was incurred from that loan. Now, we're probably talking about a non-Jew that was allowed to pay interest. Otherwise, the Gemara would be saying we shouldn't be getting it anyway. But okay, so it was a non-Jew that paid the debt. Now, the interesting thing is like this, that the money of the debt, the money of the loan was the father's money. He gave it to him, and then the guy gives it back. That's really his money. So the interest is something that's coming from outside, but the money itself, so in other words, there is logic to this, that he can take the double portion from the actual money of the loan, but not the interest that incurred, that increased, right, the extra.
I noticed there are multiple examples that kind of like what we consider like passive income wouldn't be given like double portion to the first one.
Define passive income. What is passive income?
They don't have to do anything.
Oh, that you don't have to do anything. So that from yesterday we understood that you do get it or you don't get it.
The firstborn doesn't get the
first get even passive income.
They don't get from passive income, but they didn't do anything for it. It was just like a free group.
No, I understood yesterday that was machlekes Rebbe and Rabbanan. When it comes to active, everyone agrees that you don't get. When it comes to passive, Rebbe said you do, and Rabbanan said you don't. Right? Now here, this seems to be passive.
And the rabbi said,
well, we didn't say exactly who this is following, did we? That's what we're holding right now. Okay. So one second. We might have discussed that yet. Over here we're saying that you're not going to get the interest. The Gemara asks, Laman, according to which opinion does this follow? So it says, Ile Rabbanan. If we say it's following the opinion of the rabbis, Asta Shvacha Dasi B'Shusei Am Rabban B'Leishako Milva Mibai. When it comes to, we have said before, there was a tree that switched. We said, if it got fatter, everyone would agree that you get it. But the question is, if it grew fruits or something like that. The tree already had it, and the flowers were there, but the fruits grew. What would happen then? Would you say that that the firstborn gets those fruits? Notice it's already almost in his possession, and nevertheless, the rabbis say that you don't get it. Now you're going to say that he's going to get the loan where it was out of his possession. In other words, he lent it to someone else, and money that's lent out is not really in your possession because the guy, maybe will never pay it back, or even though he's supposed to pay it back, but he's allowed to spend that money. It's not considered like it's in your possession. Something happens to it, right? So, Ella Rebbe, they must be following the opinion of Rebbe that Rebbe says, and Rebbe was much more lenient was much more allowing for the firstborn to take a double portion of this income that was coming in. So it fits with Rebbe better. So the Gemara asks, so the Rebbe b'ribbis, but what about the interest? According to Rebbe, you should be able to get the interest as well. Now we're like in a little bit of a predicament. According to Rebbe, you should get both. According to the Rabbanan, you should get nothing. And here we have just the loan is getting a double portion. Is it, or just the first one's getting a double portion of the loan, but not of the interest? Well, Tanya, we have a brisa, Rebbe Yomer, b'charneitel pishnayim, bein b'milva, bein b'ribbis. According to Rebbe, you're supposed to get both, the interest as well. Gemara says, Leilam Rabbanan he milva commanda gafidam. Really, we're going to say that this is the opinion of the Rabbanan, and we're going to accept this view, and we're going to say that when there's a loan, it's as if it's already collected. Now, why is it collected? You have to see about that.
It's not like the others loan they mentioned before, the money is considered like wasted.
Right. So suggesting that maybe there's property. When there's property, it's more considered collected than when there's no property. Now that the Gemara is going to discuss in a minute. I think what the Gemara is holding right here is that the reason why the Rabbanan would consider it collected is because the document is strong enough to make it like as if there's a mashkin. If there's a collateral, it's as if there's a collateral. It doesn't have to, maybe it's not specifically the land, the document itself that you have the debt is strong enough to be considered in his possession. Okay, let's take a look what happens here. Amar le Ravacha barav l'Ravina. Ravacha barav says to Ravina, I didn't say a bracha yet, right? Ikla amimar la'astrin b'darish. Ravacha barav, interesting, it's not obviously not Rav, because that wouldn't match up with the generations. It's I don't know. Maybe there was someone barav. He says to Ravina, Ikla amimar la'astrin. Amimar came to our place, our city, the Darish, and he taught the following: exactly the statement that was said in Eretz Yisrael, Shalcha Misam. They sent from Eretz Yisrael. That a firstborn takes a double portion from the repayment of the loan to the father, but not from the interest that was repaid. Doesn't get a double portion of the interest. Amarle, so Ravina says, Nardoi letamayo. Ameimar is from Nardoi. I think in that Hamafkid it says Anami Nardoi Ana was Ameimar, right? Ameimar was from Nardoi, and he follows the opinion of Nardoi. Who else was in Nardoi? Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman was in. Rabbi Yehuda should have. Rabbi Yehuda went to Pumbedisa. Shmuel was in Nardai. But that was an earlier generation. So here we're talking about the later one. Sorry? With the earrings. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Rav Nachman learned under Shmuel. Yeah, but I think historically, I think Nardai was destroyed. The yeshiva had to leave. Yeah. It came back afterwards. Yeah. So when Nardai was destroyed, I think Yehuda left and made the yeshiva in Pumbedisa. Yeah. And then the people came back to Nardai afterwards. So the Shabbos spirit. That was Lud. You're talking about they played ball on Shabbos? It's Yerushalmi. It says that it was Lud. They played ball on Shabbos. They had an arrow? Yeah, they had an arrow. It just wasn't the Shabbos. Yeah, this was some outside invasion. Anyway,
a quick question.
Yeah.
When the Gemara says Shaluk Misam, does that mean that there is a tradition that the Rabbanim in Israel had answered this question, or somebody? What does that mean?
Well, it was a message. I'm not sure. It doesn't tell us who brought it. It's usually it's Ula, or Rabdimi, or Ravin. Anyway, whatever the case is, they got a message from Eretz Yisrael, and this message seems to contradict the statement before of Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. It says, "Eina b'char neitel pishnayim b'milva." Comes along the Shalchim Misam in Eretz Yisrael. They said, "No, b'char neitel pishnayim b'milva." So anyway, they says like this, that Ameimar taught b'char neitel pishnayim b'milva v'lei b'ribis, which is what they said in Eretz Yisrael. And Amalei, Ravina says, Nardoila Tamaya, that's the Nardoi's opinion. The Amar, okay, there's a machlekes between Rab and Rav Nachman. Whichever way we say it doesn't matter. The Bach, although adjusted, but let's avoid confusion. We'll just read it as it's printed. The Amar Rabba, Gavu Karka, Yeshlai. Gavu Mais, Ainlai. Rabba's opinion is that it depends what was collected from the debt. If he collected property, in other words, the borrower didn't pay back cash, he paid back property, he paid back the debt, paid back property, so then the firstborn takes a double portion of that property because the property is more like in the hands of the lender because it always existed, it's always there. So even while the person had the money, but the property was there. So it's sort of like he had a collateral. And that having a collateral is like owning the money. So when he passed away and it wasn't paid back yet, but he sort of owned it anyway because he had the property there. So that's why the first one will get a double portion. Gavamais, if he collects money, the money wasn't in his possession. That would be what we called Roy. It was called potential money. And potential money, the firstborn doesn't get a double portion. That's the opinion of Rabbah. Rav Nachman says, it's exactly the opposite. And the way Rav Nachman would explain it is like this. What did he lend him? He took money in a bag, right? And he gave it to him. And that money in a bag, he gives it back to him. So it was always his money. Even though he didn't give it back at the time that he passed away. But that money is what got returned. That's what he lent him. That's what he got back. That was his money. So that's why he'll get a double portion. It's not the same. I know it's not the same money. It's a slight problem. But whatever the case, that's how he's viewing it. Gavu karka ainlai, but karka, property, that was like some other income here that was never the original owners, was never the lenders. So that he doesn't get a double portion. So Rav Nachman says exactly the opposite. Now, either way we take this, what we're saying is that they both hold that you can collect a loan, just depending on which one it is, either this one or that one. And they argue about which one is more significant, which one is more under the possession of the lender. So that's Nardoi's opinion. Amalei Abaya l'Rabba. So Abaya is a student of Rabba. Abaya says to Rabba, L'didach kasha l'Rav Nachman kasha. I have a question on you, and I have a question on Rav Nachman. Both of you. So you don't. It doesn't make sense what you're saying. L'didach kasha. It's interesting. By Aaron Hyman, who wrote those books, told us Tanaim Amarim. He points out that we never find Rava challenging Rabba. We have machlekes in Rava and Rabba, but never with a conversation. It's like wondering, Rava is much more quoted in Shas than Abaya, and which assumes that we could assume that he lived longer, possibly. And but what happened to the he was the both students of Rabba? What happened to the conversation? We don't really have. We have Abaya challenging Rabba often. Anyway, he says, L'didach kasha l'Rav Nachman kasha, there's a kasha on both you and Rav Nachman. L'didach kasha, according to you, there's a problem. Why do you say, Rabba, that money is not considered in the possession of the lender and the firstborn doesn't get a double portion? The lav hani mais shavakavuin, because this is not the money that the father had left. He lent it to him and he took back other money. Like Dr. Stein said, it's not the same money, it's not the same bills, right? It's not the same coins. It was spent and you pay it back. And so karkanami, lav hakarka shavakavuin. This property also the father didn't leave. Now, if you want to say the promissory note is enough, then that's one thing. But you're not saying the promissory note is enough. You're saying that it's because of the money or the property, because he's only agreeing to one of them. Now, if you say money is not the same money, because he doesn't have to give you back the same bag of money, he can give you a different money. So, okay, it's not the same money. Then you can't. He says, well, the property that he gave you, he didn't have to give you that property. He could have given you a different property. He could have given you money. You didn't have to pay your property. So the property wasn't in his possession, just like the money wasn't in his possession. If the money's not in his possession, the property is also not in the possession. Because he could have given you something else. Why is the money not in possession? Because he didn't have to give you this money, could have given you a different bag of money. So the property also, he didn't have to give you this property, he could have given you a different.
The firstborn would only be if it's property.
And the firstborn, no, we're saying that whatever he collects, whatever property he gives you. Yeah.
Wait, I'm confused because when we first started the case, I thought the property belonged to the lender.
No. The property, it never belonged to the lender. Okay. Property belongs to the borrower, and he's paying that to the lender because he owes him money.
The same as today with house. Is the opposite.
No, but there's one point that's could be a little confusing here, is that when we take the loan, we use the property as a mortgage, as the collateral. We're not saying that the property was used as a collateral. That everyone would agree to.
Here, when you buy a house, you own the house and has a loan on it. But the car is the opposite. The car is on the bank's name. So
yeah. Paid off. No, we're not dealing with any of those. We're dealing with a regular loan. Someone comes over and says, "Can I borrow $1,000?"
But it's different types. If it's backed up by real estate.
He didn't say it's backed up. Borrowed money.
Unsecured loan.
He borrowed money. Comes to paying it up. He says, "Okay, I'm going to give you a property. I don't have the cash. Just take a property." So Rabbah says that's acceptable. Says, well, why wasn't that acceptable? That means the firstborn would get a double portion from that property. Because why didn't you say that he would get a double portion from the cash? What's the difference between the two cases? Yeah. Boy, then I have another question on you. It says like this. Ha'amar mar, there's different ways of reading this. Ba'atu da'amrit, you were the one that said, Mistaber time of the Bnei Marava, that the people of Eretz Yisrael make sense. The Kadim Savta v'Zavna Zvini Zvini. That if the grandmother would have sold the property, it would have been a good sale. Now, the Gemara later on is going to explain what's the case with the grandmother. But I'll just tell you like this. It says that there was a guy that says that I want my grandmother to inherit, but and after her, I want my inheritor to inherit. He has a grandmother. His mother's father's father's father, whatever. It doesn't make a difference. And he also has a son or a daughter.
His father's mother.
Huh?
So his mother's mother.
Oh,
his
father's mother or his mother's mother. So, and then he says, so, which basically would mean that she should use the property now while she's alive, but it should go to his inheritors afterwards. Now, he happened to have, was it a daughter or a granddaughter? He had a daughter. He had a daughter. He didn't have any sons. He had one daughter. The daughter got married. The daughter's married. Now, what happened is like this. What should have happened was the grandmother uses the property. It goes to the daughter. If the daughter passes away, then the husband inherits the daughter. It didn't happen exactly. The property. He inherits her property. So, it didn't happen exactly like that. What happened was the daughter passed away first. So the property went to the grandmother, and then the grandmother passed away. Now the property was supposed to go to the daughter, but she's not around. To his daughter, not her daughter, to his daughter. And so the husband shows up and says, I want to take it. I want the property. Now we had a rule, we mentioned this before, that a husband doesn't inherit potential property from his wife. It goes to the other inheritors. Only what she has at the time of her death will she inherit, not possessions that come to her later. That doesn't go to the husband. In other words, he doesn't have priority over the other relatives. That's what that means. The other relatives have priority over him when it comes to that. So there was machlekes over here. What happens? They sense from Eretz Yisrael that the halacha is that the husband doesn't get it. Now, so, and the reason for that is the kadam savta v'zavna zvini zvini, because it's not considered the daughters, it's not considered this guy's daughters, because the grandmother could have sold it. The grandmother could sell it, then that means that it's potential property, that it's potential, right? Because it was given first to the grandmother, and after she dies, it's supposed to go. But the grandmother could have sold it. It was given to her entirely. She could have done with it what she wanted. So it means that it's potential to the daughter. It's not in the possession of the daughter yet until the daughter actually gets it, because the grandmother could have done other things with it. If that's the case, then the same thing over here. This property, why it's saying that the property that the borrower gives to the lender is considered already in the possession of the lender. The borrower could do anything he wants with it. He could sell the property before he gives it.
Halakhically, can you control a gift in the future like that? Is that called a gift? Is that a real kinyan?
The Gemara is going to say that what he did was he really gave the usage of it to the grandmother, and he gave the property to the daughter, which means she could use it as long as she lives, but it's really belonging. That's how the Gemara is going to explain at least one of the opinions. There's different opinions there, but whatever the case is, this opinion was that the daughter doesn't get it because it's considered potential. Yeah. Yeah. Remember those. Can you give something to someone? Can you control? It says, I'm giving this to you to use for Shabbos. Remember, like there were halachas about that. Does the person have to actually use it for Shabbos, or can he use it for other things?
Yeah.
It was I forget the halachas, but anyway.
Some places halakha allows it, in other places it doesn't. Like with a get, he's not allowed any control whatsoever.
Oh, yeah, that's a different story. That's because it needs to be severed.
So, but here what you're saying is one way of looking at it is he's really giving it to the daughter.
Yeah.
But first, grandma gets to use it.
Right.
Okay. So then the husband has a good taina. It's really his wife's.
The husband would have a good taina, yeah. Yeah, for sure. That would be the explanation for the other side. Yeah. So those are the two questions that Abaya has on Rabbah. why are you making a distinction? Because why are you making a distinction between if the debt was collected with property or the debt was collected in money? It's the same thing. And also, you were the one that said that if you can sell the property, then it's not considered that it's under the possession of the inheritor yet. So too over here, it's not considered that it's in the possession of the lender, which is the father over here. So why should the son get the firstborn get the double portion? Now he goes to Rav Nachman. He says, Rav Nachman Kasha. And Rav Nachman, you have also two questions. Maishna Karka Deloy. Why did he say that he can't collect property? The Lav HaKarka Shavakavun, because this property was not left by the father. Maisnami Lav Hani Mais Shavakavun. This money wasn't left by the father. It's the same question, the opposite. It says when he lent the money, he didn't tell him that I want those coins to be returned. That we should say that that same coins should go now to the possession of the firstborn, and he should get a double portion, right? And also, this is an interesting statement. Rav Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Baravua, his father-in-law, that if there is a debt that's owed to the father that's owed to the deceased, the orphans come along and collect it. What they collected could then they collected property, which is fine. Someone owed their father money, they go and collect it, all good. But then, if the father also owed money to someone else, that creditor could come in and take the property that they had just recently collected. Now, the problem is with that is that the creditor cannot collect from income that the orphans did to the estate. You can't collect from that. You only collect from what was originally the father's, because the debt was on the father. So if you view property that's been collected as an income, as an improvement, which is not the original, so then how could someone else come in and collect it? So he's asking, obviously, according to Rav Nachman, you should be able to collect property, because property has to be under the possession of the lender. As you see, that when they collected property, another borrower, another creditor, another creditor could come in and collect it. So it means it's in his possession, which means that the firstborn should be able to get the double portion if it's already in his possession. As we're discussing, firstborn getting double portion. Well, it's a good question. Amrlei. So this is Rabbah responds to Abaya. He says, Leila de di kasha v'leila Rav Nachman kasha. There's no question on me, and there's no question on Rav Nachman. We were just saying what the opinion of Eretz Yisrael was, but we don't agree with that. Yeah, you hear how they got out of this? They said we were just explaining what they said in Eretz Yisrael, that you can collect a debt, but that when you collect the debt, the firstborn gets a double portion of the actual debt, but not of the interest. We're saying, how did that work? So, well, one opinion said that it was property, and one opinion said that it was the money, and they explained it however they explained it. But we actually hold that you don't collect at all. We hold like Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, that says that a firstborn does not get a double portion of a debt. Okay. Now the Gemara goes back to tell us the story that Abaya raised when he was asking a question on Rabbah.
Wait, before you go, the entire left side of the page, just all comments on what's going on.
I don't know. I didn't go through this.
It's the entire left page.
Yeah. I went to the right side of the page.
Oh, okay. Well, it's half a page, even to the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I leave out from the Rashbam. I sort of explained it. The explanation for Rav Nachman, how did Rav Nachman say that? If Rav Nachman actually holds that a firstborn doesn't get a double portion of a debt, so how did he say that another creditor could come in and collect from the collection, from what was collected? How is it considered in his possession if the firstborn doesn't get the double portion? So that the Rashbam explains that the Gemara over there says that they were using another process called Shibuda de Rav Nassan, where the creditor comes in and says, "I'm just going to leave you out, leave the deceased out, and since you owe me money and he owes you money, I'm just going to collect it straight from him." We've had that before. So that's how, it's not that it's in his possession. It's because he's avoiding him. Yeah. Shana?
What are we saying, that field became less valuable?
No, we're discussing over here. We're discussing over here. The firstborn is supposed to get a double portion. He only gets a double portion of possessions that are in the actual possession of the deceased, not improvements that come later and all of that. So what about if there's a debt? If someone owes money. This is a big discussion. Is the money considered in his possession, and he should get a double portion of that money that was owed? Let's say someone owed the father. Let's say there's two sons. All right.
Oh, someone owed the father.
Someone owed the father money, and now let's say the two sons, they owed him $3,000. So do they each get $1,500, or do we say that the firstborn gets $2,000 and he gets $1,000 when it gets paid back, because it's getting paid back to the state? So, and then what if there's interest? So we said the interest, it was a non-Jew, he was paying interest. So this is a machlekes between Shmuel and what they said in Eretz Yisrael. What they said in Eretz Yisrael was explained by Rabbah and Rav Nachman. And so Abaye asked questions on both Rabbah and Rav Nachman, and Rabbah resolves it. He says, we don't actually hold like that. We were just explaining what they said in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. My Savta, what's the story with the Savta, with this grandmother that we mentioned? It says, Dehuda Amalu, there was a person that said to them, Nichsei l'Savta. Huh? Yeah, Dr. Stein says it's above a Maisa. He says, my possession should go to my grandmother, Basra Daf. And after that, after her, it should go to my inheritors. Who's the inheritor? He happened to have a daughter. Habale Brata Davinasiva. He had a daughter that was married. Well, Shchiva Bechaye Baila. The daughter passed away while her husband's alive. Ubechaye Savta, and while the grandmother's alive. Okay. After the grandmother passed away, Asabal Katava. The husband comes and says, I want the property that you had given to the grandmother, which was supposed to go to to the wife, to his deceased wife. Rav Huna, his opinion was liyarti, bafil liyarti yarti. When he said it's going to go to my inheritors, it even means the inheritors of my inheritors, which means the husband. Who's his inheritor? His daughter. Who's the inheritor of his inheritor? It's the husband of the daughter. So when he said it's supposed to go, so therefore it's supposed to go, we have to give the property now to the husband.
The woman that carries the boss.
Okay, now when it comes to children, the children are going to inherit. The children have a priority over here. Well, the husband inherits first before the children.
Everything that wife belongs to the husband. What if she had other kids? No. Kids before the marriage. The kids inherit from the father.
And they inherit from the mother also.
Including the daughters.
Right.
If she brought the property in, and the husband died. specific reason why they had to marry within the tribe of the first generation.
It would go to the husband and to the son. Who goes first, the husband or the son?
That's farther along. Maybe there's other.
The Hillel is saying that the husband collects first, not the son, when it comes to inheritance of the wife. Yeah, do you remember what it said?
It said Adam first the Kameh.
Okay. Whatever the case is, let's take a look. It says now, Sholchim Misam. I'm sorry, I skipped Ravanan. Ravanan Amaliyarti V'Leiliyarti Yarti. He said, only says it that he wanted it to go to his inheritors, and you want to say that it wants to go to the inheritors of his inheritor. So Ravanan says that it doesn't go to the husband. Okay. Now, Shalchim Misam, they sent from Eretz Yisrael, Hilchasa Kavasei de Ravanan V'Lami Taimei. The halacha is going to follow Rav Anan, but not because of his reason of the wording over here. Hilchasa Kavasei de Ravanan, the halacha is like him, the Baal Lo Yaris, that the husband does not inherit V'Lami Taimei, but not because of his reasoning. Dila Ravanan, so Ravanan's opinion was, Afagav Dahavale Brola Brati Lo Yaris. According to Ravanan, even if the daughter had a son, he also would not inherit it. Because Ravanan says the wording was only to his inheritors, not to the son, not to inheritors of inheritors. It won't go to the son. But that's not so. The Ilo Havale Brala Brate, if there would be a son, Vadayaris, of course the son would inherit the mother. Baal Hainu Taimed Layars, what's the reason why the husband doesn't inherit? Because it's considered potential. And we have one detail where the husband doesn't have the same strength as a child, and that is that the husband can only inherit what the possessions that the wife has at the time of death, not what she's going to inherit later. But a child would inherit even what was coming to her. Okay. I still don't know who gets first, if there's a husband and the son. The son or the husband? Huh? Dr. Stein says, what's on first? Who's on second?
Are you writing this down, Naftali?
I'm catching every word in Divrei Reni.
Michlal. Okay, what we just got now is Michlal. This implies that Rav Huna Savar Baal Neitel Baroik B'Machzik. You see, Rav Anan held that the husband does not inherit. And in Eretz Yisrael, they said that that's because, or they're going to pass like him, the husband doesn't inherit because it's considered potential property. But Rav Huna that says the husband doesn't inherit, how does he say the husband inherits if it's potential? It must be that he holds that a husband can inherit potential property from the wife. Amar Rabbi Lazar says, and us we're a little surprised about this because we basically quoted psukim that said that that you don't do this. We had from Pinchas give this thing before about how does Pinchas have property that Elazar doesn't have, right? Remember we said, well, it had to be that he got it from the child gets it that the husband doesn't get and all that. So says this was a statement by Rav Huna, who's a great person, and it's going to finish off with me. I'm a small person. It says the way it works according to Rav Huna is what he was really doing is what he wasn't giving it to his grandmother, and then after the grandmother it's going to go to the daughter. No, it was giving it to the daughter from now, and the grandmother can use it while she's alive. Anytime a person says that after this person gets it, it's going to go to someone else, what he really means is he's giving the actual property to that person first, and the other person just has the usage of it. Whenever he says after this person, it's going to go to the other person, he's giving it to the second person first as the real ownership, and the usage goes. Okay. Amar Rabba, Mistabra time of the Bnei Marava. The Bnei Marava seem to be correct. The Kadim Savta v'Zavnas Vinis Vini. If the grandmother would have sold it, it would have been a sale. That's the case. So then it wasn't given to the daughter. The grandmother could have sold the property. The grandmother had the full ownership. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, the rule is that, not like we were saying, possibly Rav Huna was holding, rather, a husband does not inherit his wife's potential property, only inherits what she actually has. In other words, if she gets an inheritance after she passed away, that does not go to the husband. And the firstborn also does not get potential property. Now, Rashbam pointed out that there was a slight difference between these two types of potentials, but the firstborn also doesn't take a double portion of a loan, whether the collection of the loan was done with cash, whether the collection was done in property, he doesn't get a double portion. This is a very interesting case. The son borrowed money from the father, the firstborn. Now he pays it back to the estate. So let's say he borrowed $3,000, and there's two sons over there, and he pays it back to the estate. So basically, they're going to split it now. He should get, it's a loan, right? So the loan from the outside, you don't get double portion. He's a firstborn, doesn't get a double portion. So he pays it back, and now he ends up taking 1,500 back. Another brother takes 1,500. However, in this case, because he's the one that's paying it, and it wasn't so clear what's supposed to happen with the loan. We were just saying, what he's going to do is he's going to take it's going to come out the same thing, right? He's going to take it's going to be 1,750. You're going to take half of what the other person is supposed to get. If his father would have collected the payment while the father was alive, then the son would get 2,000. The firstborn would get 2,000. The other brother would get 1,000. We don't know exactly how much the firstborn son had subjected his property to his father. Could be he actually had given property to his father while the father was alive to make his father, like he leaned the property to the father. If that's the case, then it's as if the father collected, and then he should be able to get 2,000. So what we're going to need to do here is we're going to need to split that difference between the 2,000 and 1,500. We're going to give him half. Palgi.
That only follows one opinion. The other opinion says that he could pay it back with the land or with money.
Yeah, Rav Papa didn't hold like that. Rav Papa held bein shegavo karka, bein shegavo mais. It didn't matter. According to that opinion. Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Asi. Rav Huna says name Rav Asi. B'chor shemicha. If there's two ways of reading this over here. One was Rabbeinu Hananel, which the Rashbam rejected. What we're talking about over here is that the inheritors want to invest the money of the inheritance immediately. They want to start doing things. If that's the case, the firstborn son is only going to get one portion of those improvements. What improves, he has two portions of property, but the improvements to all the property he's not going to get the full improvements for both of his properties. He's going to end up getting improvements only on one property. So what he does is he protests. He says, I want to divide it before you start investing this, before you start making these improvements. And that way I'll do those improvements on my own and I'll get the double improvements. So if that's the case, then he protests and they owe him the improvements for both properties. Amar Rabba mistaber tamid Ravasi. Va'anovim u'batzrim zeisim u'maskim. Aval darcham lai. It makes sense what Ravasi said if it was grapes that were harvested and olives that were picked. But if they were pressed, then he says differently. And the reason is because it changes the state of what it was. It used to be grapes and now it's considered wine. So what they have to pay him is what it was at the time when they took it from him, which was against his permission, which was the value of the grapes.
But the wine's worth.
The wine is worth more now. But when they take something, they don't. When they return it, if it changes, they took something without permission. If it changes, they give them back what it was worth at the time when they took it, not what they improved it. Rabbeinu Chananel has another pshat. Rabbeinu Chananel is talking about does he have to protest twice? Only he protests once, that's enough. That's only if it's grapes that they pick. But if they turned it into wine, he has to protest again. That was something else. That's when they built it into a structure. They didn't have to return.
What word if it became less valuable?
Oh, that's a discussion here. One second. Rabbi Yosef Amar. Rabbi Yosef says, "Afilu darcham," even if they pressed it, still his protest is good because darcham may. The Gemara says, "Really, darcham mikarin v'vashtachamra? How could you say that?" So the Gemara answers, "Kedamar Avuk Barcham litin leidemei hezek anava v'chanam litin leidemei hezek anava." If what Rav Yosef meant, he wasn't arguing with them. What he meant was that do they have to if the wine got worth less, so then they have to pay him for the damages. Yeah, even if they press, they have to pay him for them. Both would agree to both of these statements. They're just each one. One was talking about it improved, other one was talking about where it got worth less. What was the case of Rav Bar Chama that you said it got worth less? Ahadam Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. It said Rav Yehuda said name Shmuel. B'charo pashat shniach lemevi amanav and there were two brothers, a firstborn and a second brother. The father passed away, he left them grapes, and they were harvested. Zeisim u'maskim, olives, and they were harvested. The Bechor takes the double portion. Afilu darcham, even if they were pressed. Darcham, pressed, mikarin v'ashtachamra. That's a brand new thing. You're not supposed to get the double portion from brand new things that happened after the death. What he means is that he's supposed to be paid for the damage that was done to the grapes because when it was pressed, it didn't improve. It decreased in value. And he's supposed to be paid for that. If it improved, he doesn't get.
Unless he was Micha?
No, even if it was Micha,
He only gets it as it was then.
If it's Micha, then it depends how much of a change was made to it. If it was made and it's still the same name, then they owe him the improvements that he was supposed to get, right? But if it was...
Why is he getting...
Because he said, I wanted to do this on my own, and you did this without my... I should really be getting that. They caused him that damage. He should be getting that. But if it changed, that now it's a different name, then we say that they only owe him like a thief would owe, which is the original value when it's a new name.
Excuse me, what does Micha mean?
Micha means protest.
That's the purpose.
Yeah. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Again.
Yeah.
What's the difference in those two?